What have I got myself into? This is the neighbor's Model A project. It's got a, if I remember right, either a 350 or a 305 in it. Turbo 350 and like a 10 bolt or something. And it has been sitting for a while, and he wants us to get it going again. He said it used to start and run, but it ran like trash, and so he put a new carburetor on it, and now it won't start at all. So let's see what we find. We do not work on these vehicles for money in 99% of cases, but I owe this guy for sending me a couple of really good customers, so this is the only reason this thing's in our shop. Here we're looking down the throat of the carburetor, and you can see we're getting fuel. It does smell disgusting though. Here we're gonna check for spark, go ahead. Okay, yeah, we got it down there, so she's hot. Now we're gonna check it at the plug, go ahead. All right. And here's some Cosby sauce, go for it. Go. Let off the starter. Hey, don't hold the starter once it's started. It's like grinding the out of it. I said don't like the gasolina. Oh no, not the fuel cell ussy. Our fuel gauge says Chino got it very much in it, in the bottom. So maybe a good and a bad thing. This foam also likes to deteriorate, and he said this thing when he did put the carburetor on it was running and he put fresh gas in it, but he said it just didn't have any power. I will be surprised if this foam hasn't deteriorated and is plugging up our suction line going to the engine. So we'll see. Oh yeah, that is top tier. Plastic fuel filter next to hot exhaust. Maybe not the best idea. So I decided to take the fuel line off the tank because I figured, well, there wasn't but this much fuel in the bottom. And we got a flammable mess on the ground. We're just gonna let that evaporate. But I did get a hose put onto the fuel suction side, and we're gonna blow air from the engine back through this to see if we get any debris that is potentially in that line to give us an idea if that foam's in good shape or not. Nothing too crazy down in there. Now we're gonna put it back on and fill it up with fuel. I pulled one of the plugs and it doesn't look terrible. It should run on that. So right now the timing just sounds really far off. We can't get it to run long enough to actually put a timing light on it. So we're just gonna start by rotating this distributor one way or the other and see if we can't get it to run a little bit better to where we can start checking our timing. If you've never been hit by a ignition coil, it's not fun. Shocks the absolute crap out of you. So Paul got these gloves that are used lineman's gloves that are rated for like 100,000 volts or something ridiculous like that, but they expire. So these expired in 2016, so I can't go out and work on the power lines, but I can rotate this distributor safely without getting zapped. And that's what we're after. So don't bust the nut loose there. To me, the timing sounded the opposite of advanced. So we're going to advance the ignition timing some, and a small block Chevrolet rotates clockwise. So to advance it, we need to rotate it counterclockwise. Go ahead and start it or try. I don't like being on this side. Let me move the camera.
I wasn't aware you were recording, so I just thought you were learning me something.
I'm always learning you something, Michael. Okay, now I can control the throttle. Nope. Oh, that sounded amazing. Go for it. Much better. before we go wasting our time trying to time this thing based off of that sheet metal timing chingadera, these are a two-piece balancer with a rubber ring in between, and over time the outer ring that has the timing mark can spin on the hub. Here we're looking down inside the cylinder at the piston. Go ahead and go up, Michael. Stop. It started to go back down right there. And look, our timing mark is showing 12 degrees before top dead center, when in reality our piston is after top dead center at the moment. I'm gonna let y'all watch the piston. Go ahead and turn it, Michael. Stop. Okay. I'm gonna look at that footage real quick and see how far that went down. So there you can see that that piston was not at top dead center. It was about a 1/4 inch below top dead center when our mark shows that we are at top dead center. So this timing marker cannot be trusted for this procedure. We will have to use a piston stop and put our own mark on there to determine top dead center. Just because this doesn't line up doesn't mean that the balancer is spun. It just means that our timing marker is not straight. So we're gonna go ahead and make our own. I'd be much more concerned with this if this was a high RPM, high performance motor, but this is a bone stock 305. If the balancer spun a little bit, this turd ain't gonna care. Technician Red was nice enough to let us borrow his pistol and his stop. So now we'll be able to find true top dead center on this thing. What you do is you thread this tool into the cylinder head, and this will actually stop the piston from coming up the bore. Then you rotate the motor the other way and wait until it hits this again, and you'll have, I forgot to say, you're supposed to make a Sharpie mark whenever the piston stops. And then you divide the two, and that'll give you true top dead center. You can see we have one black mark here and then one above. And then the silver one in the middle is the middle between those two lines, which is true top dead center. So now I can put white out there and we can time the motor based off of that, as opposed to that white mark up there, which is very wrong for this timing mark. Let me explain to you what just happened there. So that was what is called dieseling, and it is whenever you have a carbureted vehicle and you turn off the ignition, you are cutting power to the distributor, and it is no longer firing the spark plugs, but there is still red hot carbon inside the combustion chamber that will keep the truck running as if there is still a spark in the combustion chamber. The fuel on a carbureted vehicle doesn't stop when you turn the key off. It is a mechanical setup. It will continue pouring fuel until the end of time. But that red hot carbon continues igniting the mixture of fuel whenever it enters the combustion chamber, so that's something we can't control. That was elevated as well due to the fact that we had the engine at like 4,500 RPM when we shut it off. If I would have let that thing idle and kind of cool down a little bit before I turned it off, it would have turned off just fine. And it does turn off just fine now. All right, now that it's timed properly, see how she starts. Daggum, Cadillac. Oh, wait. Hell yeah. Jeez. How do you know this thing has a small block Chevrolet? I'll go first. our starter left us in the middle of the road. So on our test drive, we noticed the front tires do not rotate. And by the time we just went a mile down the county road and back going like 10 miles an hour, the front brakes are 350 degrees. So got to figure out that problem next. We took the bleeder out of the caliper and we had fluid squirt out when Michael pressed the pedal, but Michael, try and turn that tire. It's still really hard to turn, so it's gonna need calipers. If it was a brake hose, whenever we pulled this bleeder out, it would have relieved the pressure and this would free spin, but it doesn't, so confirms the caliper is no bueno. The brake master cylinder's leaking, and it's filled with what appears to be pond water. When we install the new brake master cylinder, we want to make sure that the lines we're connecting to don't have a bunch of trash in them, so we're going to blow out the lines from here to the front and then to the rear as well. We're going to take them off of the wheel cylinders and blow out all that crud that's in there so that we have the best chance of the new brake master cylinder surviving without having to replace 100% of the plumbing on this rig. Thankfully, on this old master cylinder, I was able to find a part number on it, and then O'Reilly's has a little deal on their website where you can type in that part number and it'll cross-reference it to anything else, and it pulled up this Brake Best part number here, which is an identical master cylinder, so that saved my tail on that. And then on the front calipers, these are just very traditional GM single piston calipers. They do have different thread sizes though. This happens to be the earlier of the two designs. This one is from like 1975, so it's got a SAE banjo bolt versus like 77 and later they went to a metric bolt, so I just had to confirm that. We were able to pick up two Duralast calipers for like 30 bucks a piece. Can't beat that with a stick. Well, that was a fail. You can see these are different widths here on the ears, and if the brake pad were to wear down, it could like cause this ear to run off the end of the bolt. So thankfully, once again, found some part numbers, should have looked for them before, and cross-referenced them, and they're out of like a 69 Firebird, so waiting on parts again. If you're returning brake calipers, be a decent human and make sure you put the right-hand caliper in the right-hand box and the left in the left-hand box, so that if somebody's not buying a pair of calipers like we are here, and they order this part number, they don't get home, take their vehicle apart, and find out that the bleeder screw is on the wrong side. We got the new master cylinder put in. Made sure to put top locks on here instead of nylocks. I just trust those more of a mechanical lock. We had to put some spacers here because our push rod was a little too long and there's no adjustment here. Yeah, I didn't feel like refabricating stuff. And then this was the bolt that they had for the pivot. I put Chingos red Loctite on that, so she's ready to rip. Just gotta hook the brake lines up. And we're back. Attempt numero dos. Bueno. We got the same mounting width here, so these are the correct calipers. The piston diameter is the same as the old ones, so these are the exact same caliper. Thankfully, they've got some part numbers here, so I feel like somebody in the future, should they run into this problem again, can probably identify these. Well, I spoke too soon. The old brake pads don't fit the new caliper, so I'm throwing in the towel, and these are 69 Firebird calipers. They have the same piston size, the same mounting, everything, but the brake pads just won't jive. So we're ordering 69 Firebird pads, and this vehicle is the perfect example why I do not work on custom stuff or older stuff. It just consumes too much time. This caliper is now rubbing on the interior bracket here, which somebody else has already modified in the past and ground down. So we're gonna have to take some material off here to get this caliper to go on all the way. And now we have a brake caliper mounted. I didn't route that hose, so don't come at me, bro. And we have clearance on the back side of the caliper for this thing to move side to side. Now I just gotta do the other side and bleed these son of guns. All right, we got the brake lines hooked up. I didn't want to hook these up just yet until I had the calipers on, so I didn't drain the master cylinder, but when I took these lines off, the master cylinder wasn't dripping, so we're not going to be able to gravity bleed this thing. But somebody had PTFE on all these connections, which is unnecessary. These are a tapered seat, so anything on the threads is completely pointless. I just hope that there wasn't a reason that was there, so we'll definitely monitor this for leaks. So the never-ending list of shit is going on, so these should rotate very freely. If I have Michael press the brake pedal and then let up, you can't turn this anymore. And if you loosen the bleeder screw, then you can rotate it again, indicating that we have pressure that's remaining in the system. This brake master cylinder that we got from AutoZone had fluid in it when we got it, but I took a chance on installing it thinking, well, maybe somebody just got the wrong one and bench bled it and then stuck it back in the box with fluid in it. Well, there's a reason they returned it, is because it's not allowing fluid to flow back into the master cylinder. So if you break the line loose at the master cylinder, then our brake rotor turns. And we took the pedal linkage off from the pedal to the master cylinder to make sure our pedal wasn't being preloaded, because if your brake pedal stays pushed into the master cylinder, then it's going to cause this same scenario. But it's only on the front. The rear don't have this problem. So we're going to have to get another master cylinder and put it on, see if we cannot get rid of this problem. I think we finally figured out our problem with the front brakes dragging on this car. So this is a drum master cylinder. And drum brakes require residual pressure valves. This is a residual pressure valve. It goes behind the brass insert where your brake line seats up against. And long story short, this master cylinder, I removed both the brass inserts out of this master cylinder that came off the car, and there was no residual pressure valve. I pulled the first brass insert out of this one, and we have a residual pressure valve. So what that's going to do is that's going to hold 10 psi worth of pressure on that front brake circuit, which it does not need because it's not a drum brake car. It's got disc brakes on the front. So we're going to remove that on just the front circuit, which on master cylinders, your rear port is your front brakes and your front port's your rear brakes. But we're just going to remove it on the rear circuit, put it back in the car, and I bet our problem's gone. The reason you need a residual pressure valve is because on the rear brakes, there's a big spring that's trying to pull the brake shoes towards each other and collapse the wheel cylinder. And that 10 psi keeps the brakes applied but not actually dragging the drum. And so they're whenever you let off the brake pedal, they just barely compress, and that 10 psi sets in and it keeps it from compressing further. Without it, the pads would just collapse that, or the springs would just collapse that wheel cylinder all the way, and then you would have to pump the brakes up to get them back expanded all the way. So there's no reason for us to have a residual pressure valve on that circuit. All we did to get those brass inserts out was found a small screw out of the screw selection that screwed inside this port without damaging the actual sealing surface. You can see on this one, I used too large of a screw, but this was the old master cylinder, so I really wasn't concerned with it. But yeah, find a small screw and you won't mess this piece up, and you can reinstall it. Huge shout out to this fella, Sort of Stock. He was the guy that had a video on how to remove the residual pressure valve out of the master cylinder, because he had disc brakes on the rear of his car with a drum master cylinder, and it was keeping the rear brakes applied. Let up. Now you can see our rotor turns as it should. There's no more 10 psi worth of residual pressure in that circuit. This thing had nothing but water run in it for a long time, so the cooling system looks like pond water. And he took the thermostat out, so we're going to take advantage of that and go ahead and back flush this system and flush all that rust out. This is a tool from Matco that allows us to pulse air through the system to kind of break up some of the other particles as well. Ready? Yeah. I'll rotate his air intake that way a little bit. That's pretty disgusting. Don't that look nice? Much better. And don't go crying. This thing literally sits out in the rain, has been for several years. I turned this around to keep the water out of the engine, and we'll just wash this off when we're done. But that's looking much more better. Went ahead and filled it back up with water, and we're gonna just run it, make sure nothing's leaking. We don't have any other surprises before we go filling it with coolant. We'll probably flush it one more time. Something mildly concerning is we show no oil pressure, but the coolant temperature never rose when we test drove it earlier anyways, so I did check, And we do have oil coming out of the rocker arms, so I doubt that the oil pressure gauge is accurate, but we're going to go ahead and put a mechanical gauge on it to confirm that it's not actually out of oil pressure. Well, that's kind of depressing for oil pressure with a cold engine. It's something, but I would expect to see like 80 on a good solid engine with nice clearances, but we don't know who rebuilt the motor. It's got flat tops in it, so somebody might have put the wrong bearings in this thing, or maybe it's got some really lightweight oil in it, but either way, it's better than nothing. Before we go shitboxing, we gotta grab the fire extinguisher off of the other shitbox. Definitely don't want this thing catching on fire and having no way to put it out. Do you even rat rod, bro? This is easily the sketchiest thing I've ever driven in my life. Oh, Jesus. It's definitely like riding in a tin can. And there's no seat belts in this unit. The door is just holding on for dear life. So am I. So. And it's got death wobble. Hell yeah. This is sketchy. That's how much slack we have in the steering. And it's all in the gearbox. So the only way to fix the death wobble on this thing is to replace that gearbox. Hey, but mama didn't raise no bitch, so we're gonna ride it anyhow. Hot oil pressure at idle looks pretty good. And it still doesn't have a thermostat in it, but the radiator is only 160. You know, kind of average temperature is 160, so that's good. Listen how purty this thing starts. Sheesh. That's all for this old girl. The owner's gonna take care of the rest of the things on it, so bye-bye now. If y'all wonder why all my videos sound like we have a bird sanctuary, it's because all these little sparrows that nest in our shop's awning. It's really annoying, and I'm probably gonna pay to soffit this. You can see on this purlin, I've already paid to have you know, covers put on there, but they still live in the I-beam. They actually will go up in on the back side of the I-beam and live in there. I mean, they literally will make a nest anywhere. If I put soffit here, they'll live on top of the camera. But it's an annoying problem, and even with a microphone on my chest, it still picks up the birds. So it's a problem. If y'all got any suggestions, I'm down for it.